this is Doug with A Quiet Life. We're going to talk about some drip irrigation. And I figured as I was going to be working on it anyway, that I can kind of work us through how it works and see how it is applied out here. Drip irrigation is really a good thing. It saves a lot of water. You can run it on low pressure and you can put it exactly where you want it. So as we go through this, hopefully it'll help you. Look in a little closer. There's the faucet systems, and it has the filter and the pressure regulator, and then it runs over here to the edge and runs down this what's called the main line and comes down here to the bed we want to work on. Each bed has this same kind of setup. So you've got the main line coming in, and then you got the little connectors that go into the main line here. And then this is called the T-tape, and that hooks into the connector. And the T-tape has the little water emitters that let the water flow out at each plant. And then at the end of the T-tape, you'll see some little connections that just pinch off the end. And so when you turn on the water, it fills up these tapes and it comes out the little holes. And so you can see that it works really well in each one of these beds. What's nice is it'll run on low water pressure and it'll hit exactly what you want. So all of these down through the tomato plants and everything is on drip tape. We're going to be putting in drip tape here on the right hand side. Over there, the whole left hand side has drip tape in already. So that's what we're going to be working on. And we're going to also put some outside. So let's go take a look at what it looks like on the bench. Okay, we're down here at the bench, and we're going to be looking at the components of a drip irrigation system. And basically it all begins with this assembly here, which is called the filtering system. And it's broken up into a number of components, which I'll take apart so that we can take a look at them. There we have it. This is basically the entire filter. This is the filter head, and this part right here is what if we said there was a water faucet, and this just screwed into the water faucet. It has a typical hose fitting with the insert that you would find on a hose fitting to keep it from leaking, and this just screws onto a water faucet. From that point, the water goes down into this cavity here that has the filter. This is the filter that just that is pushed into the seat system right there. And basically the point of the filter is that the small holes where the water seeps out of the drip tapes can become easily clogged with debris and minerals and things like that. And so this filter takes those things out before the water goes down there. We use a well water, which is real high. Ours is very high concentrates of minerals. And so this filter is very, very helpful to clean that out. Saves a lot on your drip tape. So you got the filter head, you got the filter itself, and then you have the body of the filter that covers that over. It has a drain hole here so that when it's time to take this off, you can drain the filter body out, and it just has this cap that seals that off. So you can see that just screws together, and you have the filter with the faucet coming in, water, and then coming out here. This part that screws on out here is called the pressure regulator. And the whole point of a pressure regulator is because if you hook up to your city water, let's say it runs about 60 pounds per square inch, and that's too high for the drip tapes because it can blow the drip tapes out, too much water pressure. So you get this pressure regulator, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see that real well, is it says 20 pounds per square inch, and there's no switches or anything like that. It's just built to take whatever pressure coming in, and it will take it down to 20 pounds per square inch, which is the appropriate thing for the drip tape. So it's screwed on there. This screwed onto the faucet. Water goes through the filter and back up and into the pressure regulator. And that's what you begin with. And from the next point forward, we hook on to the outside of the pressure regulator, and we'll move on out from there. Okay, in our last section we were talking about that we have the filter system already hooked up to the faucet over here, and then we begin what we're going to be calling the main line. The main line will feed the drip tapes when we get out there. Basically, the main line is hooked off of the pressure regulator, and it has couplings that help it to do that. Now the first one, we've got a couple of different couplings. One is the female coupling, which is at the head of the main line, and if you wanted, it could just screw right on here to the pressure regulator. Typically that doesn't happen. Typically what we do anyway is we have a hose, a water hose between this, and this will just be laying on the ground, and this is over here, and this could be 50 feet away or it could be 5 feet away. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, this will be laying on the ground, and this is the same fitting that would fit on there, so a water hose could make the difference, the distinction between there. So this is the beginning of the main line, and then we use a certain kind of tubing for that. We've got this mainline tubing that you can see is it's rigid, and it has the hole in there, and this coupling that worked with the off the pressure regulator just pushes on there, and then this thing tightens up, and it's very simple to do. Something you might use is like a hair dryer or a heat gun if you have them, just kind of warm this up. If you don't have that, you can, wait till a nice warm sunny day and let this thing sit out in the sun, and it gets very pliable, and you can take the couplings and just press it in there, and so you end up with this coupling and the main line, and this main line will be as wide as your bed is going to be. So let's say the bed that you're going to run your drip tape down is, say 10-15 feet wide. So you cut this a 10 or 15 length of this tubing, attach it to this female connector, and then on the other end you've got a male connector which would attach to the other end. And if you wanted to continue attaching more and more and more, you could, or there's a cap that just goes over the male connector, and then it stops the main line across the length of the bed. And so it's very simple, because this is the feeding tube, you might say, from the faucet, from the filter, hooked down from the pressure regulator into this main line, and then it goes the width of the bed. Sometimes you might have a bed where you had some extra pieces of this that you wanted to use up, and they have a union that can be attached in between two pieces. You see, it's not a threaded piece like this one or this one, but it can be set between the two pieces of main line in the process. So this is one of the variations. You don't need these things if you cut everything right, but you might want to add things together. So that's a union, and then there's another one which is a 45-degree angle, which does the same thing as a union, but it goes around a corner. So it just attaches to the mainline tube as well, and then just goes around a corner. So sometimes you may have a custom-made bed that is weaving its way all around, and you need to work your way around all the corners and such things. These extra little adapters can help you do that. But for the most part, the beginning of the main line is this female connector, and then at the end of the main line is this male connector with the cap. And so that begins your coming out of the filter into this main line, 10-15 feet wide. This begins, this ends, and that gives you a feeder tube at the head or foot of your beds that you're going to run your drip tape off of. And that's what we'll take a look at next. Okay, now we have our main line that's running across the head or foot of your flower bed or garden, and it's full of water. We already talked about putting the filter on one end and the pressure regulator, and then the couplings on both ends of this main line. And so we're just going to say this thing is stretching across the foot of our bed. So now what we're going to do is hook our drip tape to these things. And basically, I've got a piece of drip tape here. It comes in a long roll like the other one did. But as you can see, it's much less rigid. It is very flexible. And that's why they call it, I guess, because it looks like a tape. You know, it looks like a piece of tape. And there's a white line across the top of it here. As you can see, the other side's just solid, and we've got the place where the water oozes out, you might say. And so it's going to attach to the main line in various places. And you always lay it with the white line up, and it's attached with a coupling that looks like this. This coupling has a barb on this end, and then a coupling that the drip tape pushes onto from this end, and then this screws down over the top of it, and that seals it. So you end up with this this kind of structure right here. So you can see this barb. This is the part that's going to be inserted into the main line. And you can use, they sell these little punches that are about the size of that barb, or let's see, we've got a pair of pliers, and you can see the little nail-like thing in there, and it just goes over the top of this main line. You press it together, and it makes a hole. And the same thing, you'd kind of want to use a heat gun or a hair dryer, and then this inserts into that hole and seals it off. And so basically you have the main line, and now the drip tape's hooked to it. And it's pretty simple. It's all sealed, and the water comes from the faucet through the filter into the main line, and then through these barbs and into the drip tape, and then oozes out here. The tape itself is pretty, there's lots of variations. Some of them have 6 inches between the place where the water flows out of. Some of them have 8, some of them have 12. It depends upon what kind of plants you're working with and how much even watering that you're going to need done. And that's something that you're going to have to make a call on. And so this drip tape will come with different pressure, flows that will allow out and distances between things and the lengths, and there's a lot of things. You can get a catalog and just kind of educate yourself on what's available for this. So this drip tape hooks onto this barb, inserts into the main line. There's also one other kind of barb that's pretty common, and that is one that has, as you can see, a valve on it. And so this is hooked on to the drip tape itself as well. It hooks in as a barb, and then you can turn this individual tape on and off, because if you don't have that, they're all, as you turn on the whole system, they're all going to fill and they're all going to flow. Well, in some situations, you might want to adjust certain lines of vegetables or flowers or whatever you're doing. Some may need more water than others, and so you want to cut it off in that process. And so you can get these connectors with the valve assembly. There's also, like we had with the main line, there's also connectors that can be used to hook multiple lines of drip tape together. It's like when you come to the end of a roll and you weren't able to go the whole bed width, or length, you can hook one to another, so that you're not wasting stuff. So basically, that's the idea. Then at the end of the drip tape, because you gotta bring this thing to an end, there's a connector. Let me go get one. Then at the end of the drip tape itself, when you want to close it off, you just fold it over, and they have this, it's kind of a lock for the end, and you push the end through that, cinch it up through the end, and it pinches it off tight. So basically you end up with a structure or something like this. It has the barb on one end and the pinch on the other. It's attached to the main line, and whatever distance you have for the drip tape outlet is on here. We use about an 8-inch in between, and it'll make, that 8-inch will make a circle of water, and then a circle of water, and so on, and they tend to touch each other and give an equal and even watering system. So that gives you a picture of the whole drip tape system, and we'll go back out into the garden to see the whole thing at work.